Hey, welcome back to Practical AutoCAD and Inventor. In this video, I'm going to review one of the basic things we need to be able to do, and that's print from model space in AutoCAD. I'll go through all the options and look at how you can change the settings, as few as maybe a couple of intermediate things that you need to be able to do to get your plots looking exactly like you want. Stick around and check it out. Plotting from model space is a fundamental skill that all CAD technicians should have. So we're going to spend a few minutes looking at the plot menu and going through and changing some of the settings so that you can see what you're going to get when you plot. The first thing you want to do is access the plot command, and there's a few different ways to do that. Of course, you can type plot at the command line, or you can go to the quick access toolbar and you can choose the plot icon off of the quick access toolbar, or you can go to the menu browser, go to print, and then choose the plot tool from there, or you can type Control P at the command line and use the hotkey to get there. Once you do, the plot dialog box shows up and it says, okay, we're plotting from model space. And then we have some options here. The first thing that you want to do is you want to specify what plotter you're going to be using. To do so, you'll drop down this list and you'll choose the plotter that's appropriate for your office. In this case, I'm going to use the DWG to PDF because it behaves just like a plotter, but it'll also generate the PDF that I can examine right here on screen, and we can see what's going to happen before we move on. After you do that, you want to specify what paper size you're going to be plotting to. So I'm going to drop this down, and based on the drawing that I have here, I'm going to use a paper size of the ANSI Full Bleed B. Now what that means is, ANSI Full Bleed means that it's going to allow me to plot all the way up to the edges of the paper if I want to. Kind of like you would have a photograph with no margins or anything. It gives me a little bit more flexibility with how I'm going to plot. The next thing that you want to do is you want to choose what you want to plot, and there's a few options here. So if I go to this what to plot and drop it down, you'll see that there's display, extents, limits, and window. If I choose display, it's going to select only the things that are on my screen, which is fine if I'm zoomed all the way out and I can see everything, but if I'm zoomed in and I can't see everything, that's obviously not going to give me what I want. If I do extents, it's going to look at the entire drawing, even something that I may have way out in Nowheresville, and so that can sometimes be a little bit frustrating, especially if you've got kind of orphan geometry that you don't know it's supposed to be there. It is actually how I usually plot, though, by going to extents. If you choose limits, it's going to limit what you're plotting to the drawing limits. So if you're drawing outside of your drawing limits, it's going to cause a problem. And then the last option here is to actually choose a window. The window option is kind of nice because if I only wanted to look at this side here, I can simply make a window like this, and it's only going to plot that side there. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to go ahead and go back and choose what I want to plot is the extents here. After I do that, notice in our preview box it's giving me like a kind of a grayed out area. This hatched area is where the plot's going to be, just so that I kind of have an idea of what's going on. From here, down in the lower left hand corner, I can either choose my plot offsets or I can tell it to center the plot. So if I didn't want something in the very lower left corner, for example here, I could say let's offset by like maybe 1/2 of an inch in the X and 1/2 of an inch in the Y. And as I do that, you'll see what happens is, let me update this by just clicking in another box here real quick. I'm going to choose that for none. Notice that it leaves a little margin on both of these sides. It does turn a little red line over here saying, hey, I'm going to be plotting outside of the margin over here. That's okay, we're going to adjust that a little bit later. The next thing you want to do is you want to come over here where it says fit to paper and probably uncheck. Most of the time we don't want to fit to paper, but we want to actually give it a scale. So I'll uncheck this box, and once I do, I get either custom scales, all of these scales that are listed, okay, or I can come in and I can tell it how big I want to be. So if I come in here, for example, and I say I want 1 inch is equal to 20 feet, then notice that it gives me a preview there. Okay, now everything again fits in there. And 1 inch is equal to 240 units, which would be 20 feet. If I wanted something else that wasn't on this drop-down list, I could simply do the math and then type it in here and get what I want. Now, notice that I did do this scale of 1 inch is equal to 20 feet. in my preview window, notice that it's going to have a larger margin at the top and a larger margin on the right-hand side. If I wanted this image instead centered in the paper, I could simply click right here where it says center the plot, and notice that it moves it up in here and centers the plot. From here you'll want to go up to your plot style table, and you want to choose which plot style table you're going to use. If I choose AutoCAD, then when I go to preview, you'll see that everything in here is now going to be in color, which I may or may not want. Probably not. On the other hand, if I were to go in here and choose monochrome and apply that when I do my preview, you'll see that everything comes out black. That's what monochrome does for us, is it turns all of those colors black. If you want something else, what you need to do is you need to create your own CTB, and I've got another video that I'll send a link to it or down in the notes at the bottom showing you how to create your own color style table. And I've got one here called all black. Now this isn't really an all black one, because if I come in here and look at the example, I've got colors 1 through 249 or so as all black. But then when I go to 250, 251, 252, 253, 254, and 255, they're shades of gray. And those are important because when you go to your layers, those last colors 250 through 255 are also there on the index, and you can pick shades of gray. So that's why I did that. So I'm going to leave this as all black here. And again, when I preview this, you'll notice that some of my lines in here are now going to be gray rather than just black. After you get that done, you want to come in here, and these two here where it's shade, plot, and quality only have to do with 3D drawings, which we're not dealing with here. I can choose plot in background, which isn't an issue for small drawings, but I've got large drawings with maybe several sheets or lots of information. It's going to take maybe 5 or 10 minutes to spool it over to the printer. At least it allows me to work while I'm still trying to print. Plot, you do want to have your object line weights on, because otherwise all of your line weights that you set in your layers will be ignored. If I say plot transparencies, if there's any transparencies in the drawing, or if it's not checked, they won't be, and so on. And then finally, the last thing that you want to do is you always want to preview right here. That's going to give you this message. You've probably seen it a few times. It's saying, hey, the annotation scale is not equal to the plot style scale. Do you want to continue? And yes, I'm going to choose continue. I have an annotation scale in here that's 1/4 of an inch is equal to a foot, but obviously, you know, I'm plotting this at 1 inch is equal to 20 feet for my little piece of paper there, so it's obviously not working. If I click this box, it won't give me that message anymore, and you get your plot preview. Now, what you see is what you get here. So if I don't like this, then I want to press escape and go back in and change. But if I do like this, I can simply press escape and then OK. Once I choose OK, it's going to prompt me for where do I want to save this, and just to have some place to save it, I'm going to go ahead and just put it in my downloads folder here so that I know where it is. And it also gives me the option here to save this as something else. I'm just going to save it as that and then choose OK. And once it plots, then it actually will open it up, depending on your settings, straight away in your PDF viewer. And so now I've got my piece of paper, and I could come in here and look at what I've got. So one of the nice things about it is, you know, it does prevent it, and PDFs, of course, are available. Almost everybody has a free PDF viewer at this point, and it's fairly secure.